Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending Dashboard Dive's Teller Activity Analysis. Your instructor for today is Annalyn Hawks. We expect this class to last about 30 minutes. As you joined us today, all phones were placed on mute to eliminate background noise and interruptions. To facilitate answering questions you have during the broadcast, we use the chat feature. You can find the chat feature by hovering over the bottom of the presentation screen. You should then see a toolbar with a series of icons. Click the one that says Chat, then select a presenter and type your question. Questions may be sent at any time. We'll be stopping throughout the presentation to answer these questions. We appreciate your attendance today, and with that, I'll turn it over to Annalyn to get started.
Thank you. All right, yes, I am Annalyn from our Asterisk Intelligence team here at CU Answers. And today, we actually have a set of dashboards we're going to be looking into. There are more than, what do we have, 6 on the screen, and I'm actually only going to be talking about the 3 right here, 844, 845, and 846. So we're looking at it's 3 different dashboards, but it's going to give us a lot of the same or similar information, sort of time slicing, teller activity in multiple different ways. And I'm kind of curious, I wonder if any of you, if you're looking at it, you might have a vision for other things we could do similar time slicing on for dashboards. And so if you have any ideas along that line of thinking as we go, definitely send it through chat, or any questions as well, as she mentioned. And the reason I bring that up is because there is some topic, there's some relatively newer features or products that are getting either developed or integrated into CUBase that weren't before, that we're starting to think about some of those things, just the timing of when things are happening and understanding when members are coming to you and doing business with you, not just at the teller line, but maybe perhaps even RDC. Mobile app usage. When are they? What time of day and month? Like what does that flow look like? What does that heartbeat of member activity look like over time? And that's going to be a big focus of the dashboards today. But just to rewind a tiny bit, in case you are new to Dashboard Dive sessions, that's what we're doing today. So every Thursday, 3 o'clock, we have a Dashboard Dive session. Now, with that said, last week we didn't have one. We skipped it because of our yearly leadership conference. But the client news emails go out every week promoting the next week's topic. And so sometimes, if this is one of the first ones you've ever signed up for, we encourage you to watch for next week's email and come around on the next topic as well. We have the schedule currently going out through August and or into August. And right now, actually, we just talked with Keegan, our boss on Asterisk Intelligence, relatively recently about extending the schedule, actually. So there are quite a few dashboards coming out in 1807, so July 15th, I think, is the date coming up, for at least 4 or 5 of them. And those for sure we'll want to be covering with you guys in some capacity. And then just in general, if dashboards are new to you as well, I want to make sure you know, as a resource, there are at least, I think last count was 93 of them available for you to dive into and get some easy point-and-click data analysis or data mining done. You don't need to know custom query, and you don't need to deal with printing 5 different versions of a report to get different angles or slices on your data to find out various answers. So next week's topic, and for those who are interested, is transaction count by delivery channel. So if you're also doing other types of transactional analysis, that will be one that's interesting to you. But back to here, we're talking dashboards today, and I'm going to start with the broadest time slice that we have, which is day of week, actually. So 845 is teller activity by day of week, and then we could get down into the individual day inside a month, or within a day, what time of day is certain activity happening at the teller line. So these are really great dashboards for operations managers, branch managers, executive level folks looking for quick stats on, branch traffic or member teller activity traffic. We did just recently I'm going to go ahead and click on 845. That's the one I said, yeah, we're going to look at that one first. We did just recently here at Asterisk Intelligence, we did a small analysis on teller activity in general. We picked a 10-year static, we picked a static pool of credit unions, followed them for 10 years, and found that teller line transactions, teller line activity actually decreased by about 13% over the course of from 2008 to 2017. So overall, numbers are going down, but these dashboards are more about looking at, you can go back quite far in the data with these dashboards as well, and we'll talk about that in a second, but these are built to look at overall trends like that, just like what I was just talking about a second ago. You know, an average for a year, when we look at average across 71 credit unions on that analysis that we did, it trended downward to about, I think the final number was 24.4, maybe 24.2% of your membership was using the teller line. So that's 1 in 4 members are using the teller line, which is a decrease of 13% from what it was 10 years before. Now, on this dashboard itself, we have the ability to change a time frame. So I'm talking about going back 10 years, and if you've been on the core for 10 years, if you've been on CU Base for 10 years, you could go back to 2008. Data is available for this dashboard. It's been aggregated and summarized and stored, you know, month to month since April of 2004. So up here, we can go with a certain date periods, monthly periods, all the way back to April 2004 if you have been on our system for that long, or it's however far back your conversion date was. Now, anytime that we have a time slice that we can adjust, sometimes they're sort of pre-filled for us, sometimes we have to choose them ahead of time, or we have to get in here and actually type in what we want, have to answer the question of what time frame am I looking for. But anytime you see only a month and a year, we are looking at end of month data. There's not some secret filter that says this is as of June 27th or as of June 7th on the back end. And if you like this calendar picker button and you were to open it up and say, I want this to be as of June 12th, it would simply it would ignore the fact that you picked the 12th. It would say, okay, that day is in the month of June. That's what we're looking at, is the June end of month time slice. End of month, of course, being June 30th. But one thing, we're on the 5th of July already, so we've got the June data. But one thing I'll tell you too about the timing of data is always, and it's a little dry to talk about, but it's always important to understand what you have in front of you, when it's going to be available, and then be able to communicate it outwardly to others at your credit union as well. There is data for these dashboards is generated actually on the second, it's summarized on the second business day of any month. So that day has already passed. But if you were to have come in, I think the first was on a weekend actually this month. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. So that was the second business day was the 3rd. But if you were to have come in on Monday this week on the 2nd, you actually would have still, on the 2nd of July, you actually would have still seen May data. And that is normal. The dashboard's not broken. We just do have that sort of one-day lag period before we get the next month's data available and ready. So we have it though, because we're already a couple days later on the 5th. And just again, talking about context, what data, there's numbers on the screen and we can see cool things right away. But you may very well immediately want to be choosing a certain branch. If your credit union has multiple branches and you're keeping a close eye on one over another, or you're coming in not just necessarily to do a general analysis, you actually are trying to analyze each branch against each other. You know, maybe you're questioning if a branch is worth keeping open, or you're questioning how much, if there's any sort of staffing decisions you need to be making at one that seems way busier, or you're hearing reports is way busier than you would expect it to be, and you want to get some numbers to quantify what traffic is actually going through that branch. The zeros represent all branches. We have a little note to tell us that. And then our lookup button, the little spyglass, will give us a list of all of your configured branches. Now, some of you may have configured a branch that is not an actual physical branch. I've seen that before, where maybe you've decided to make your call center a branch. or some other kind of organizational aspect of your credit union rather than a physical location. And unless, if you were to pick one of those, I would imagine you would not get any data results unless you have some type of processing workflow that somehow does actually process teller transactions under a call center branch. If you have a member assigned to a call center branch, or a teller is somehow assigned to a call center branch, or some other non-physical location branch number, then you might very well get results. And that'd be something that if I were you, I would check on and make sure you are okay with that, that those are getting actually counted in, under a non-physical location branch. And maybe check your policies and your workflows and see why that's happening. So that's one thing, just sort of a data check. We talk data governance too when we're looking at any of these numbers. You kind of want to check yourself and say, should there be numbers here? And if so, about what would I expect them to be? Is it close or not? That's one of those things. Is, are you getting results for all the branches you would expect to be, and are you getting results for more than you might expect? It can lead to further questions down the road. Now, we have built into some of the teller analytics is the concept of goals, and there's a separate place. I haven't seen or heard of any credit union who's actually using the goals right now. So they're most just have defaults configured in. So you probably won't find them relevant for your credit union at this point. But if you were interested, the actual process of configuring and all that is a separate a topic for a separate day. But if you're interested in, working, maybe potentially, if you do a lot of teller tracking and you're interested in using those, reach out and we can get you in contact with likely Keegan Daniel to learn more about those and use them. As you can see, they feed right into this dashboard, and you can use them to sort of benchmark your branch performance if, based on whatever your configured goals are. But a lot of setting a goal, right, is thinking, well, what actually is an achievable goal? And this dashboard can help you sort of start to determine what is normal for your credit union over time and in a certain period. So if we wanted to look at seasonality, we could sort of get a brief look at some of these numbers, maybe take a screenshot if you know you're going to forget them really fast. But guess what? We could go all the way back to June 2017 really quick. Now, I typed it in, I haven't hit enter yet, so the number's still down here. It's about 2,900 total transactions in June 2018. If I hit enter for June 2017, I get my summary view of 6,000, so we're a lot lower than before. And it's giving me a message at the bottom that I don't have drill down detail available for this period, and that's normal as well. But if I go back to, on some of these month periods, but if I go back to June 2018, we have more than just total transactions. We have actually some pre-calc values for you on the screen. So we've got average daily transactions and number of members, right? Actual number of members, transactions per member, number of tellers that worked that day, members per teller, and transactions per teller. So you could have had a low members per teller number ratio, but transactions per teller is really high because that's just the day that they are bringing in tons of checks to get deposited. And if you are not familiar with teller processing and what was considered a teller transaction, it's important to take a second and talk real quickly about how the fact that a teller transaction is very different from a member transaction. So a teller transaction itself is the different actions like transfer to a loan, outside check deposit, cash in, cash out, all that type of stuff is logged as a teller transaction. The member, if they did a combination of depositing 2 checks and a loan payment, right? That's 3 teller transactions. But for them, there's only the one item on their savings history for the deposit, and then the one item on their loan history for the total deposit, and then the one item on their loan history for the loan payment. So a member is going to think of a transaction differently than your tellers are, and when you're doing teller analytics, you need to think about the transactions being the actual teller transactions versus what you might see on a member history. Now, these numbers also, they're not intended to be reconciled to, like if you were to run a teller audit report and you get something slightly different than 129 on the Mondays, that's probably pretty normal. The filters that are within this dashboard are not intended to necessarily reconcile precisely to every single piece of activity that might have happened on a day. There's a combination of a couple of different data sources it's looking at to find out number of tellers and number of transactions, and then also number of members. And sometimes there are rules put in place for how we're going to actually count these up. So let's say, like for example, let me think of a good example. For example, if you have, so number of members is the number of actual members represented by those transactions. So we have 15 members that came in on Mondays in the month of June. Now, if the member did a transaction at a different time or at a different branch, that same member would actually be included in more than one of the accounts, right? So different branch or different day. So we could have had one of these 15 people came in on at least one Monday in the month, but they also came in on at least one Thursday in the month. So they're included down here in the 20. And then maybe at some point, I don't know, it was a busy month for them, they also came in, they're one of these 4 people that came in on a Saturday. So this 189 total includes that same member 3 times. That is perfectly fine, because depending on what you, understanding the rules of how the dashboard's working and what it's designed to give you, helps you understand and better explain some of those what feels like quirks, but is actually completely normal, because you're not necessarily trying to pick out the unique number of members with this dashboard anyway. You're not trying to pick out exactly, pared down to the most unique number of members of anybody who visited you in the month. You're trying to look at throughput and say, how busy am I on Fridays? How busy am I on Mondays? And that member is making an equal amount of impact on your branch and your teller line on a Monday and a Friday. So, if you're trying to look at overall trends across the month, everything is calculated the same from one month to another. So if you see numbers moving up or down on this column, even if it's multi-counting a member across multiple days, then it's still an accurate trend line to follow. So that's just a kind of a different way of looking at it compared to some of our dashboards, and it does throw quite a few people off. So I wanted to spend a little bit extra time talking about how we're defining things differently in this dashboard because of the purpose it's built for. We're not trying to say all the 26 members that came in on Friday are different from, we're excluding, they came in the most on Friday, or create some fancy business rule behind it. It's just pure, how many people visit, how many member visits did you have on Friday? So one other thing that is, again, this dashboard, because it gets into time cycling and there's a lot of things you have to take into consideration, and our programmers and the analytics team that built this did that up front for you, but they might not be something you would have thought of right away. So I haven't even talked about frequency, but this is telling us that in the month of June 2018, we had 3 Mondays. We had 4 Tuesdays, 4 Wednesdays, 3 Thursdays. Now, because this is our training credit union, I'm okay with seeing the number 1 here, but normally I would not expect to see just 1 Saturday in a month. That's kind of funny. But because it's our training credit union, I don't doubt that. We get funny data in our training credit union sometimes. And so now we have percent of we don't even have to look at all of this over on the right-hand side. Where did all the volume fall across these days? What percent of the month is taken up by these days in the volume? 1,200, I mean, this is the highest total number of transactions, but we have about middling on members per teller. So the actual volume through the teller line, as far as number of member visits, wasn't that much, but tons of actual transactions per teller. So those members were standing at the line longer, taking longer to handle one member, and move on to the next one. It couldn't move the line as quickly on that day, but technically fewer members came in. So we can start to pin down some of these things, and I haven't clicked over into there. We'll go into the other tools really quick because they allow you to dive deeper into saying, okay, so if we wanted to look at Wednesdays and say there's tons of activity happen Wednesday, and it's clearly a lot of transactions per teller or per member, it was taking us a while to get through. I want to see, was that all in the morning or was that all in the afternoon, or was it pretty evenly spread? I have more questions. So we'll use some of the other dashboards to look at that. And before I pop over to them, though, I want to show you these tabs are going to give you some graphical representations, which are a little easier to interpret and share. These are very shareable if you prefer that as well. So again, this pretty clearly indicates Wednesday. Our darkest red bubble is representing, or not bubble, column is representing Wednesday. And then you also have the option, again, if you're new to dashboards, you don't know this, but if you have been to any dashboard dives before, you've probably heard me say this already before several times. We have these, when there's no sensitive member data on the screen, we try to build you some extraction options. With the floppy disk, you can take it out to CSV, an Excel. If you click that, it will download a CSV version of the data we see on the screen. With the Excel button, it will download an Excel workbook version, including all of the charts. It will draw the charts for you in Excel. So those are really handy for being able to maybe reformat a bit and paste into a board report if you'd like. And then the PDF option is a pre-formatted PDF that also pulls out all the data and draws the charts for you, but it's an optional add-on that we do have a license you need to reach out to the CSR team for. If you don't have that license yet, you need to get it on your computer, and there is a one-time cost for it. I think it's $50 or $60 at the most. You pay for it one time, you get it on your computer, and you can pull PDFs as much as you want out of any dashboard you want. That's just if you want it pre-made into a PDF. The Excel is very functional and has everything that you need to start with anyway. So I'm going to hit back, the back arrow. And now maybe I do want to see time of day. Let's go into 8:46. It might take a second to load. It looks like we went pretty quickly here, but it's crunching a lot of data too. So if a dashboard takes a second to load, that's sometimes that's normal as well. So we have June 2018, and it looks like across the month of June, where are we seeing? Probably this 10 to 11 looks like the highest. So I'm going to hit the column header on the top, number of transactions, and it's going to sort in descending order. If I click it again, it'll sort in ascending order. Now, this is a trick that works in any dashboard you see, that a column header that is clickable is going to be sortable. Then if so that pulls me up to basically, it looks like we've got an hour in the mornings and an hour in the 2 to 4 is really a pretty hefty chunk. Altogether, let's look at the percentages. That is 20, well, this is almost 14. So almost 30%, or I mean 40%. Right? Yeah, I might have rounded wrong one way. It might be a little less, but that's quite a bit of volume right there, and that's a funny time to have it too. So again, remember, this is test data, but this helps certainly look at the flow through the branches, what time of day it's happening, and how many tellers did you have on staff at the time? You were actually that's one of your higher staffed moments too. So hopefully we see the members per teller and transactions per teller at a decent mark here. But this is again also where we can talk about benchmarking. If you have a goal that your tellers are processing a certain number of members or a certain number of transactions per hour or per day, these can help you. You have to sort of do a little preliminary analysis to figure out what is currently the rate at which your tellers are processing individuals through the line or transactions through the line. And then if that is something you want to improve upon, you set the mark higher, and then once a week, once a month, even, well, really it has to be once a month because the data is only generated once a month. I caught myself on that. It's got to be once a month. You come in here and see how did we do? Did we go up or down? Now, we get, on this one, we get, there's a little bit more if I page down, I think. Nope, never mind. It looks like we got all our time slices on this one dashboard. But similarly, we get the same PDF, Excel, CSV export to pull this out into raw data and build some of our own charts off it if you'd like. And remember, we can look at, I like to always recommend looking at where you were most heavily staffed for the day and make sure that it made sense, like your numbers are not drastically lower or off for the month. And maybe that is a spot where you could look at relocating someone to a different shift, evaluating shifts with this dashboard as well. Now I have a question. It says, is there a dashboard already available that we can check the activity by time of day, but broken down by day? I think that might be, let me back out and I'm going to go into teller activity by day of month. Okay, cool. So if I'm following you correctly, I think what we're doing here is going to give you that. So let's say a certain day in the month of June. Wednesdays we saw were busy, so June 6th was a Wednesday. I'm going to click the drill down on June 6th. Just this little spyglass. Oh, and it says I need to pick a branch, so I will. I'm going to say branch 1. Oops. Okay, here we go. So here I am. Yes, notice in the top left, it does confirm I am looking at Wednesday, June 6th, 2018. And this is my time of day breakdown. So 4 members brought in 111 transactions from that time period, but actual person traffic through the branch was heaviest from 3 to 4. And just reading left to right now, we're looking for some of those outliers or trends that we're seeing. Now we're not able to trend. Now we're locked into a day. We're not trending across the month anymore. But as you saw, the capability of these dashboards allows you to do that through other screens. So we would just back out and see what we could find. Now on any one of these, if I wanted to see who these 21 people are, or if I wanted to further analyze who these 21 people are, or talk to them for some reason, send them an online banking message or something, this little right-facing arrow that you see on some of these number of members columns is an export function, and I could now give this a file name stored in Query XX. And if you are not familiar or work with Query at all yet, then that probably doesn't mean anything to you. You would want to reach out to us for a little bit of training on how to go find it and use it. But just know that for anyone who is slightly familiar with Query, that will make sense right away, and just know you have options if you're not quite sure what the purpose of this is and you feel like you want to pin down exactly these 21 members and you're trying to use this option and need some help, let us know. But I could give it a number, EXP teller 0606 for June 6th or something. I'm not going to actually export that, so I'll show you this other drill down is common bonds. I can view common bonds on these members, which means I can get into what types of accounts these 21 members have, what are some of their membership traits, what SEG, if I'm a SEG-based credit union, what SEGs are they with, are they individual or organizational memberships, et cetera, the credit quality of these members. Remember, we're just doing the 21 members we saw on the back there. We're just looking at those 21 that came in the heaviest time period, or service engagement. Do they have online banking? Do they have bill pay with me? Do they have a checking account? What tiered service level are they at with me? So Common Bonds is an extremely powerful analytical engine if you are wanting to figure out who are the members that are coming to you at certain times of day or certain days of the month. This drill down to Common Bonds is going to be very helpful for you. You just have to remember which criteria you got to go drill down on them in the first place. So follow-up question, yes. So you are looking for maybe every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. or something to that effect. And we could go back and look at the day of month one and see if we can drill down through there. But my first instinct is I don't think we can. I've used that one enough that I don't think it has it. So if we were looking at this dashboard, we could easily, let's say, most of the busiest days were weekdays anyway. Oops. I went back. Which one was I just in? Time of day? Nope. I was in day of month. So we looked at June 6th, and then we could dive in on each of the Wednesdays. There's only 4 of them in the month, and get those stats off there really quick. Again, if you're trying to extract it for some other reason, you can easily also pull out. You just dive in on, what did we say, Wednesday, June 13. Yep, go ahead, there it goes. And then pull it out in CSV and start combining them, do custom arrangements of the data from there. Or exporting to a database file means it's queryable as well. So you can, if you're familiar with query, you can pull it into query and filter down to only Wednesdays and sort any way you want, and do some additional sort of reorganization of the data in a way that you're looking for. New question, good question from you too. Is there a way, the question is there a way to drill down to the teller? And on these dashboards, no, there is not. On these dashboards, these are more for, these were originally built specifically more for just trending the throughput in general, not necessarily trying to do reporting on an individual teller. We have, I believe this 843 and 848 are going to be options that allow you to pin down a specific teller. So if you aren't, I'm sure you are probably familiar with those ones, but if you aren't, check them out, and if anybody else is not, check those out as well. That about wraps it up, I think, as far as what I wanted to, no, there was one more. So on this one, I personally, I like to start in this one, this or the day of month version of these 3 dashboards. This one specifically, I really like how it has the summary box. So this drill down over here is common bonds again. So if we wanted to check out these 28 members who came in on the 6th, or maybe there's a certain payroll day you want to focus on in the month, we could pick those people out who came in and start analyzing them through any one of these 4 analytical engines. But in a general sense, we could also click summary on the bottom. Anytime you see one of those buttons, you're going to get some really cool high-level stats as well. So now we get to the left, it's the highest, you know, we have the outliers of where's everything happening the most and where's everything happening the least in the month. And remember, this is just current month. We could go back quite a few months if you wanted to look back historically as well. So what looks like June 18th is a winner for really slow as far as that goes. But yeah, just another angle we can slice it into, and typically with dashboards, we try to build in some type of drill down or a way to further analyze what you're looking at. Because almost every time you're going to look at data and you're going to have follow-up questions. That's part of the point, is you ask, you see, you can act on the data, and hopefully then profit from the data, but it's a circle sometimes where you can act on it, or you're now circling around to asking more questions. And those can typically be answered by drilling down, exporting for further query, or back out and check out a different dashboard that is similar, but will give you whatever other angle you're looking for. So just to close, a final note, reiterate that these dashboards are built more for general analysis and specifically trending over periods of time, trending over sections of a day. You know, they are not necessarily built to reconcile to your trial balance on member accounts, or your, you know, specific count of, you know, if you're querying out a unique count of members who visited a branch or visited your credit union in a month, it's probably not going to match up to these dashboards, because these dashboards have different rules that are occasionally multi-counting a member or a transaction. So if you're ever confused on that point, your best friend is going to be the help button. This little italicized I on the bottom. If you are on any screen in CU Base that has data you're questioning, you can hit that button, and it will typically give you information on data sources, but definitely will give you also information on sort of some of the business uses and logic behind what a field is on the screen and how it's getting calculated. So all great questions from you guys today, and hopefully you saw some statistics on our test data that hopefully you are interested in checking out on your own credit union's data too, and potentially maybe sharing with some of your branch managers if you're a branch manager yourself. Maybe you want to look at this every month and sort of start to get some grasp and start quantifying in a different way some of the numbers of what's actually coming through your location. So hopefully we'll see you next week, and otherwise, I hope everyone have a fantastic rest of your afternoon.